Are you ready? You think you can tell us what to do? You think you can tell us what to wear? You think that you're better? Well, you better get ready. Bow to the masters. Break it down! They generate into something cool. We just got tired of doing what you told us to do. Like a break, boy.
Welcome, everyone, to another fantastic episode of Flipside Focus. Yes, I know, different voice. It's your man, the random dude, Josh, and I'm here with none other than Al Mega himself. How are you doing, Al?
Yo, doing well on this day. Yourself?
Oh, living the dream, man. Living the dream. And with us today is a creator that has changed the way in which I see and view organs of the body. If you guys remember, and this is going back a ways away, we talked about a Kickstarter back in 2016 that, for lack of better words, had blown my mind then. And here we are 3 years later to talk about his newest book and upcoming Kickstarter. We've got Daniel Brodie with us. Daniel, how are you?
Hey, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, thanks for everything you're doing. It's such a great book, and I'm excited to talk about it. For those of you who haven't had a chance to read Morgan's Organs, you're missing out. But let's just jump into it. Daniel, what was kind of the mindset when you came up with Morgan's Organs? Tell us the story about how it came about.
Oh man, now it's getting harder and harder to remember, but this was back in 2013, and I was in Amsterdam, so I'm sure you can read between the lines, and this idea just came to me. And, I had no background in comics or creative writing or anything, but this idea just stuck with me and was kind of an obsession. And for about 3 years, I was writing it, first trying to make it as a TV show, realizing it wasn't really working, and finally transitioning into comics. And once it jumped off the ground, I haven't really stopped since.
So you're saying that while in Amsterdam, you wound up having a conversation with yourself, in particular body parts, and created the whole concept.
Yeah, that's exactly how it happened. I came out of that day with the term Morgan's Organs in my mind, and the rest of it was just kind of like a hazy idea of what if, each of our body parts had its own voice, and it's grown from there to something that's real.
That's amazing. So for those of our listeners who haven't read Morgan's Organs, and it's mind-blowing that they haven't, because everyone needs to read this book. What's the premise of the book, just so that we can bring our listeners up to speed?
Sure. So the simplest way to put it is I call it like Pixar's Inside Out, but it's the adult version. But the more complicated way to think of it is it's about a university student named Morgan, who is human, but he's also kind of not. And the reason he's not is because his body parts aren't just body parts. They're actually rooms in his body that host these organ-like workers that I call organauts, who basically operate his body and keep him alive. And given that they're not actually his organs, there's opportunity that they can go around and operate other parts of the body. And so you see some of that conflict when, a character like the stomach could operate the brain, and how would that affect Morgan? So each character, really just embodies the personality of, I guess, how you would think an organ would operate. And it really plays out in this crazy conflict because they're all so selfish. The brain wants one thing, the stomach wants another thing, the heart wants another thing. And I think what really sets it apart is I went no holds barred, and there's a penis character, there's a vagina character, there's a butt. And that's really what is the driving force. It's an honest look at all the parts of the body, not the parts that are filtered out by other people who have done similar things.
That's I remember the first time we saw Pepe.
Pepe.
And
that's how Al says it.
yeah, it was. he's a character that's unforgettable. Absolutely. Daniel, you're right. I love how Al says that. So I think
I think he said the exact same way last time we talked, and I loved it.
oh yeah, it never gets old, ever, ever. So here we are, 3 years later. You've had two books published, and now you're getting ready for a third.
A third
The
book.
second, he had a twist, though, right? Kind of introduce another person's, I guess, compartments.
Yeah, that was actually the first one that we introduced the female side of it.
Yeah, the female. Yeah.
Haven't explored her further since then because, in all honesty, I don't think I'm the right person to. I think I need a female to bring on that perspective.
Oh, absolutely.
But the important point was just setting the stage that, it's not just about this one person. There's so many different people that we can bring into the story as different perspectives.
Yeah, the whole world
Exactly.
is basically open for this.
Exactly. And then the second book, each book when I can, I try to introduce a new, facet to the world. So in the second one, we close with young Morgan, which is kind of what I intended for the opening for, hey, maybe when people are more, open to maybe a child-friendly audience, we can do a young Morgan version where there is still a penis character, but it's educational. It's teaching, what does puberty look like? What is, how do memories form? All the weird things that we go through growing up.
And then I think the one thing I've enjoyed the most is the personalities of each of the organs. Obviously, there's Pepe. You can't ignore him. Now is it pronounced Bran? Is the Bran?
Bran, like Game of Thrones Bran.
Oh, okay. Those two have automatically been by default, those have been my two favorite characters, since the beginning. Andy I found to be hilarious, who is the the appendix. Just all these characters, so much creativity. I never could think that anatomy would be so much fun until I read this book. So May 11th, you've got a Kickstarter coming up. What can we expect from this Kickstarter? What's going to blow our minds, if you will, with this third book?
This is definitely the story I'm most excited for that I've put together so far, and really it's because I've tried to stretch the limits so much on storytelling in comics. I don't know if you know the background, but the story will be told in a similar format to the movie Memento. And
whereas like the same event over and over again, but just from the different perspectives?
No, so Memento.
That was Crash.
Yeah, that's Crash. So Memento, the main character has amnesia, and so how they play with that amnesia is half the story is told going forwards, the other half of the story is told going backwards, but it keeps on splitting back and forth until the stories meet in the very middle, and that's when everything makes sense. Have you guys seen that movie?
Yes, I have. And
Christopher Nolan?
Yes, I have. It's a very confusing movie for me.
Very confusing.
It's something that deserves several rewatches.
It does.
Oh, okay. I get it now.
It absolutely does.
No, I appreciate that because I see here, at least in the preview for this current issue that you have in mind, I see there's going to be apparently a lot of alcohol involved.
Lots of alcohol. Alcohol sets the stage for this sort of amnesia-like idea. Because he wakes up the next morning and he has no idea what happened the night before, and neither do the organs because they also throw a big party. And we see right away on page 2 there's dicks drawn all over the walls. So yeah. It's a.
I love the quote that you did, and when Pepe wakes up and he's like, "Man, we sure went dicks out last night." Like, pun intended.
Yeah.
It's hilarious, historical.
It's
and this artwork. I mean, your artists keep getting better and better with each.
Oh yeah, Rob is incredible, and Tyler. We brought him on for book 2. Tyler has fantastic color, really vivid. very consistent. So, I'm excited that they're both sticking with me because, indie comics can be a tough scene to navigate. And it takes a long time. This book's taken almost 2 years now.
Oh, wow. Well, what do you feel as an independent creator is the toughest, part of it?
The toughest is
Yeah.
just like being probably motivated because like I could stop doing this tomorrow and, the odd person might, be sad, but, it's not like mainstream where, people will know. You got to be motivated. You got to have a goal and I have to be self-motivated. There's no one else outside of me that's, paying for me to do this.
Of course.
So it's really the fans and the support that is why I keep doing it. But, good things keep happening every year. This past 2 years, they've recognized me as a pro creator at my local Toronto Comic Convention.
Fantastic.
So that's really,
Check that out.
yeah, it's really great. It's, I'm sitting with people who work for Marvel and DC and Image, and I'm just like this local Toronto guy. And they're like, I never heard of you. Like, that's fine. You hear about me one day.
Don't worry. Here, check this out. This is what I'm about right now.
But yeah,
it's superhero books. Check this out.
But yeah, it's great. It's great to get that official recognition. So I've, people have heard about me locally, and hopefully these Kickstarters and just growing the audience will help me grow further from that.
And just digging in a little bit further there, I mean, because again, it is so adult swimish for me. I think I told you that last time. Any ideas yet on if you're going to push that to possibly or something like that?
I'd love to. I mean, TV is still the end goal. This past year, I have been fortunate. I have made one contact who's involved with Big Mouth, a Netflix show.
Yes.
Okay.
So, we're just talking, and I'm helping him with his scripts. He helped me actually with my book 3 script.
Nice.
But it's just about networking and growing the network, and growing contacts. So even if it doesn't go anywhere, he's a great dude, and I'm just glad to be able to connect with him.
Absolutely. Well, again, with the book being so well produced, in my opinion, with your writing skills and talent, the fun and energy behind the book. I mean, please take a look at this. Support this next Kickstarter. Get those back issues. Do you still have back issues?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We'll have both book 1 and 2 on the Kickstarter, and book 3. So, the nice
clean
thing.
Sweep right there. You gotta
Yeah,
take
exactly. Absolutely. And the nice thing is each book is completely standalone. When I go to these Comic Cons, there's some adults who are there with their kids, and they're a bit hesitant because our first book is sex oriented, and I say you can skip that first book. You can read the second one, which is about digestion, a bit more kid friendly, and people do that. People just buy the second one, and you don't really need to know the first one to get what's going on, and it'll be the exact same with this one.
And thank you for doing that, brother, because nowadays, I'm an old school collector, and that's what I miss. Those one and done issues, not these events, and here you got to get 5-6 issues of said book to get the whole story. Now, so thank you for doing what you're doing. Yeah. I mean, not many do that. Of course, only indie really kind of does that, but in your format, with the quality of the book, it's fantastic.
Thank you. I mean, I think it partly is just because of my background, having... as a kid, I read some comics, but I wouldn't say I'm an avid reader. I'm more of a TV and movie guy, and so coming from that television sort of mindset, I'm trying to build like a sitcom or a sitcomic.
So you're saying you're a TV movie guy, so I'm gonna ask you the question then. What's your favorite TV program, and what's the movie for you?
That's tricky. I mean, it depends on genre, but if I had to nail down one TV show, Rick and Morty, 100%.
Yeah, I love that.
It's smart comedy, and it's what I aspire to build for myself, because every single layer of humor has something more to it, and there's always a theme. And I always try to build the theme as well into my stories.
I would definitely say the humor in this is very Rick and Morty-ish. Just Organ-ish.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I try to do what I can to keep it, family friendly, no swearing, but at the same time, it has those sort of vulgar themes and has that extra layer of, comedy, I hope, or, the extra message. Sometimes it's silly fart jokes. Sometimes it is, I hope, more sophisticated, but, I try to build everything into the story. So it's not one track. And I try to make the characters complex. I think that's the biggest thing. I remember there's another Kickstarter that came out around when I did called Steve Lichtman, and they did a great job with their premise and their books. And basically, it's just about Dungeons and Dragons characters, like Skeleton King and a vampire Dracula. And like, what's great is like they make it seem like these characters are so conflicted because like they live in this dungeon and people just come down and kill them and then take their treasure. So they're all depressed and they just want to be normal. So it's like it's this extra layer. So I just I say, what would a penis really want? What they want is sex. And what happens when they don't have that? Well, they feel hopeless. They have no purpose in life. So I try to build those sort of conflicts and motivations and also, kind of existential crises into how I come up with the character motivation.
I already have an idea for you. When there's an older Morgan, you could see Pepe, like sniffing Viagra, like coke in order to get up.
That's awesome. I like that. I'm going to have to credit you for that one.
You talk about the as the body parts get older, if Pepe is sniffing Viagra like it's cocaine. Who was it? Give me just a moment here. Little side story would be Angus getting his colonoscopy for the first time.
I mean, take it a step further. If he gets his colonoscopy and he sees a finger going up there and he doesn't know what it is and he grabs on, Angus just got flung out of the body and now he's trying to figure out how to get home.
Man. I like that one, man.
Oh, all the different gastroenterology jokes that could come out of that, which is funny because I work. So my daytime job, I schedule appointments for different doctors, gastroenterology being one of those departments.
Yeah.
So I'm always scheduling and helping patients schedule colonoscopies, upper GI scopes. And so reading this book with everything I've learned from work just enhances the book that much more.
Yeah, it's always great getting people with medical backgrounds who pick up the books because they're so much more interested in like what I'm doing with the anatomy side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I always say like, listen, I'm not a science person, so I don't get it all right, but I do my research. I try to be somewhat accurate in this sort of sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty exciting when you get, that sort of fan coming to you who might not be a comic book fan, who might be a medical or just science fan.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, poor Hugo's going to have a pager on him.
One day.
That could potentially be the pacemaker.
I can't stop thinking about that. Everybody looking for their ass. I equate that to that like Toy Story.
Yeah, and he comes back. He's acquired all this knowledge. Hey guys, there's more to this world than just.
And then
this
he's
body.
a smart ass. Look at that. Smart ass versus Brand.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And there's your spin-off. It's Angus, the Adventures of Angus, and his 4 years traveling to other bodies and experiencing other butts.
Man, this just gets bigger. The universe keeps growing, folks. Look at this on this one podcast.
Yeah, I mean, and a thing that I try to. I've been criticized before for the lack of personality, I guess, that I've given to Morgan. But part of it is very much intentional because Morgan really is not the main character. He's simply the vessel for our main characters who are growing every day. And so one day I could very well kick Morgan out of the world and, have the organs jump out of his body and say, let's ditch this guy and find a new one.
Exactly. Morgan has an accident, and here comes the organ replacements.
Exactly.
Oh, man, look at this. Oh, I see potential and hysterical, and even though that's kind of dark right there, but I see the humor in it.
Yeah.
I mean, all these people now got to connect these organs, got to connect with new parts and this new family. I can't imagine, especially if they come from different backgrounds. Oh, man, the stuff you could do with this, bro.
Yeah, maybe every time they go to a new body, they completely, transform that body. And so if they leave, the body shuts down. So, they go through 6, 7 people before they find one that they like. And they just killed 7 people and don't even care about it.
Murder.
Pepe will end up in Almega for one panel, and it's like, I'm out.
So
motherfucker, I need even more Viagra, folks.
yeah, maybe Pepe like jumps into someone who's impotent, and he's like, "Screw this guy, I'm not dealing with this."
Uh, and Al is right. The possibilities with this are absolutely endless, and I think that's one thing about the book that I absolutely love, because you look at characters from the big two, and they're limited by their continuity.
Mm-hmm.
And by their corporate owners.
By the powers that be, exactly. But with Morgan's Organs, you're not limited by that.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't set any sort of timeline. We don't know which order these events take place. All we know is he's in university, and that's all we need to know.
Yeah.
We don't even know what country he's in.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Very true. Right?
So
I mean, as a Canadian, I like to think he's up here, but he could very well be down there. He could be, who knows?
you never know.
It doesn't matter, because that's not the story. The story is what's happening inside of him.
That's awesome.
He's simply the vessel for the crappy things that happen.
Mm-hmm. Which, in all reality, allows people to even relate to Morgan, even though he, as you said, is just the vessel.
Mm-hmm. Because he still has those aspects that you expect, of a university or even, high school person, or student, I should say, growing up, not really knowing who they are. And, we all deal with conflicts inside, being uncertain of ourselves, but take it a step further, and you're so uncertain because you don't even know what's going on inside of you. There's things going inside of you have no control over.
Mm-hmm. So May 11th, the Kickstarter will launch. What can we expect? What can we look forward to for this Kickstarter? We definitely want to get the excitement going for this. So what can our listeners expect from this?
I mean, other than another great story, 40 pages again, trying to keep it long. We got our typical collector's book sleeve. This time it's drawn by our series colorist Tyler. So I'm always excited about those book sleeves. Instead of doing a variant book, we do this edition. And we also have some fun new branded merch. We got Brand the Brain pins, and I connected with a couple local artists in Toronto who created a 3D figurine of Pepe the penis.
Oh my god!
And
is it a figurine or a dildo?
You can decide for yourself, I guess.
Pepe's gonna get very popular soon. Wherepa?
And then we also did an Angus the Anus wall ornament.
Oh man, is it a scratch to sniff?
Oh man, maybe I should make it that.
I dare you. How do we come to that moment? I dare you to smell Angus's asshole.
I mean, that's the thing. It's just fun little collector's items. They're all locally produced and limited quantities. So for a good fan, it's just local? Nice memorabilia. All local, Toronto.
How did you come across these local folks then?
At these conventions, I just walk the floor and look for things that I find really cool. So this Angus mask, it came about, I think, Toronto Comic Con 2018. Have you guys know Zelda Majora's Mask?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this guy creates 3D replicas of all the Majora's masks that are 3 inches. They have a little piece on the back, hanging on a wall. I thought they looked awesome. So I bought a Deku mask, and I said, what do I got to pay you to do an Angus? He was like, it worked out. And then, the same with the other guy. Just met them at a local convention. They do 3D, they do crazy stuff. They're called Triforged. They do full-size replica Halo costumes, guns, all that stuff. So when they saw this, they're like, absolutely, we can do Pepe.
Oh man, that's amazing. Cool stuff. People, please support this amazing and very funny book. Again, 40 pages? That's fantastic. What book nowadays coming by 40 pages?
Yeah, and we try to keep it, very well priced. It's the print books start at 11. gets you digital as well. Plus, obviously as a Kickstarter, you can be proud that you helped get this book off the ground. So
exactly, you're part of that creative force almost.
Mhm.
The producers.
Can't do it without the fans. So it's great to get that Kickstarter support, and then it's even better when I see these fans at conventions saying, when's the next book? When's the next book?
Oh, well, you mentioned conventions. What conventions are coming up for you where people can actually, check out the book, physically and meet you?
So there's Toronto Fan Expo. Again, I'm Toronto based. I haven't yet gone further than that. I am hoping eventually to do a U.S. convention. Just a bit tricky with the border. But yeah, Toronto Fan Expo in August.
Wait, what? Tricky with the border? What? Did Trump put a wall up there too?
I mean, it's probably coming.
Oh man, we're gonna be fucking fortified. Help!
There's something I was going to ask. Now you'll have to excuse my brain. He's slacking today.
He's older. He's slower.
He's a bit sidetracked.
He is. Yeah. Yep. No.
Oh man, that's actually pretty cool. What type of drug would he take then to enhance himself, if need be, when he's getting old?
You'd probably be on like speed or. I don't even know.
Oh man, we got to think about that. What would be an equivalent that somebody take, but he could use it for something like that? It looks like he's sniffing it. Oh man, that'd be hilarious.
I'll have to think on that one.
Yeah. We're gonna have drugs for every character to tip into.
I'm just looking back on my second book, and one of the panels I love that Rob drew, when we show young Morgan, there's a panel of Bran when he's also younger, and you can see, now he's got these shiny 3 new flat screen laptops. In this panel, he's got an old school box style computer. He's barely has any hairs on his mustache. So wait for the future. Who knows what he'll be operating on?
Trying to figure out how to use a smartphone.
Yeah, exactly.
Piece of shit. So what are the different hopefully it doesn't spoil anything. What are going to be the different price points for the upcoming Kickstarter? I'm just thinking more for myself so I can plan ahead, because having a 3D Pepe.
Yeah. Print books start at 11, and once you're at that physical tier, it's only another 5 to add more books. So
okay,
really great starting price. The book sleeves starts I think at 17. So you get the book with this collector sleeve. Only print 150 copies of the first run, exclusively numbered. So our first book we're already completely sold out. So hopefully those will be a nice, valuable item one day.
Mm-hmm.
It will be.
And Pepe's a bit more of an expensive guy. I think to include him, it starts at 75.
Okay.
Again, all locally made. And
how big is Pepe?
he's a small pecker. He's 3.5 inches.
Hey Al, I think that's the same size as you, right?
Don't make me have to tap it on your forehead, bro. Come on, stop it.
3.5 inches tall.
I just had to ask for those collectors that somebody will ask. That's all that question is. I just knew there's no nice way that it could be asked.
Oh, for sure. No, they're collector's items. I only have 5 Pepes at the moment, so
5. Do you plan on producing more, or is it staying at 5?
I want to keep it very limited, so probably not many more. Again, we'll see what the demand looks like. But
there you go, folks. You better. That's an exclusive right there. And this is on the door swim, something even bigger than that.
Yeah. If anything, if Pepe does great, then I'll do a 3D of another character.
Oh man, that would be well. If you would you pick, or are you gonna ask the fans?
Maybe I'll ask the fans. I'm happy to get fan decision. I mean, this third book, the fans chose what I was gonna write. I put 5 ideas out there. I said, which one do you want me to do? And they chose this one.
Oh, man, I think you should do the same. I think that little Frozen idea is going to work out. I think that's pretty cool, and a great choice of a first character to release. And, I would like to see Up the Brain next.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah,
because he looks
that's a good thought, definitely. And then, you know, I want to get into t-shirts, hats. I want to get into it all. A theme park, who knows?
oh man. I don't even. That's all right. Let's leave that for another show. That's gonna be
Yeah,
another chock full box of ideas and
yeah.
horrible sexual rides.
The new Disney Kingdom.
oh man, Pepe's Peckerville. I see it now.
Oh, jeez. Oh,
He's got the automatic arm that goes back and forth with the hat on and off.
love it. Love it. Love it. So May 11th, Kickstarter goes live. Make sure to back that. Any other fun projects that's in the works, or
You know, like I have other ideas for series, but you know, I think Morgan's Organs is the way to go. So I'm pretty focused just on this series, and I already have thoughts going through my head on the story for book 4. So I'll probably start writing that shortly after the Kickstarter launches.
awesome. Awesome, awesome. Well, Daniel, this has been a fun episode. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope you have as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
It's been a lot of fun, absolutely. And Daniel, where can folks check you out?
So my website is morgansorgans.com. Otherwise, we're on Twitter and Instagram, morgsorgs_comics. And you can search us on Facebook too. And yeah, our Kickstarter is going up on May 11th, so you can check the website for the link when you need to.
Well, it's definitely, for everyone listening, let's back this project. Let's get this thing fully funded. I would love to see it fully funded in 2 days.
I
want to see it in a day. Come
in
on.
a day?
That would make my goal.
I was trying to be realistic.
If I get
It
funded,
happen. You never know. It's a fantastic book, and I highly, highly recommend it, man. Let's do it.
if I get funded on day 1, I'll be at my computer writing the next book the next day.
Oh, there you go, folks.
Ooh.
Come on, man. You see, the sooner it gets funded, the sooner we get the next issue. Come on, let's get it popping. I can't wait.
Yeah, and the great thing is, the last 2 Kickstarters, we only had about 5 to 10 pages done before we launched. This one, we already have 30 pages done, so we should have the book ready to go in the next couple months.
Check that out. So you get a delivered product, ASAP too, folks. What more could you ask for? Because my dilemma with a story I won't mention.
And best of all, you'll find out who drew the dicks.
Ooh.
Ooh, yeah.
Who do you guys think?
If I had to guess, Kurt and Carl. That's who I think.
And how about you, Al?
Could be Angus, because he's an ass.
That'd be more like smearing the walls than anything.
Oh, I have a very good imagination. That was a very horrible image in my mind right now.
He thinks it's painting.
Oh.
Al, I think we may have to do an episode of Hammered Heroes talking about this book.
Oh yeah, man, it'll be fun, bro. Yeah, Brodie. Do you partake in any drinking? Because I already know you do the other stuff.
No, I'm a big beer guy.
Oh, there we are. All right, so Hammered Heroes is our drinking podcast, and maybe the next time we do it with video, have a couple of beers and actually run down and have some fun with this.
That's awesome. Maybe once book 3 is out, we can deep dive on it and look it over.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it now.
Yeah,
Great.
That sounds fun.
Awesome. Well, Daniel, thank you again so much for coming onto the show and talking about Morgan's Organs with us. Again, for everyone listening, check out the Kickstarter May 11th. We'll make sure to provide links, all of that on our social media the day of the release, so that way you guys can go back this project, especially if you want book 4 to start the next day. Let's get this thing fully funded on May 11th. So again, thank you guys for joining us. Make sure to stay after this episode, and we're going to have a little flashback to when we talked about book 1. back in 2016. But yeah, check us out on undercovercapes.com, and we will catch you guys next time.
Thank you for having me.
My pick is an interesting one. I actually did support this one. The concept was just, to me, I just found pretty humorous. I'm sorry, I had it open and I was like, here we are. So, the book that I want to talk about in Kickstarter is called Morgan's Organs, by Daniel Brodie and Robert Jennings. So, has anybody seen the movie Inside Out?
I've seen, yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
But you know kind of the concept, right? Where the emotions of the character are portrayed as little characters in the head. All right. So, but this is kind of along those lines, but not so much. This now relates not to the emotions, but the organs. So we meet Morgan, a young teenager, shy teenager, and the opening of the book is hysterical. The kid is dreaming, and he's drooling. So it goes to see when you see this pink thing wake up, and when it wakes up, you know that it's a brain. You're like, okay, so this brain runs over to a computer to see what's going on, and apparently the kid is having a sex dream of a creature with a vagina face. And so, you know, the brain is like, oh my God, I didn't program this. What the hell's going on? So he shuts down the computer just as the kid is about to jizz. You know what I mean? So as he shuts down the computer is when the kid wakes up, you know, end of dream. So the brain is like, who in the hell is doing this? Who had the nerve? So apparently we meet Pepe. Pepe is his pecker. And he's playing games, so he's like, yo, why would you want to give this kid a wet dream? He goes, don't blame me. He was having thoughts, so I just started playing along. Why not? You know, he says, you can't blame me. He hasn't gotten ass in 60 days. You know, so, you know, and the brain basically is just telling him, hey, because I want him to get right, you know, get on a mission. You know, he doesn't need to be doing that. He needs to handle about education and whatnot. So because of the stunt that he pulled, the brain punishes him even further. So we see as the punishment is ongoing that the pecker is like about to blow up, sweating, catching fever, you know, and we go back to the real world and you see the guys hanging out and whatnot, and it's like, they're like, yo, you got to get out, you got to get laid. So, you know, they come up with a plan. It's like, all right, we'll leave you, if you can't get a girl and get laid tonight, I'm going to leave you alone. All right? So things happen, you know, they got to go on to a dare, and just imagine from there, the battle between the brain and the pecker ensues. And obviously the pecker begins to enroll other organs into his agenda.
So what you're saying is Pepe is very headstrong, if you get my drift.
oh my God, not just headstrong. There's a scene in an elevator here that will make you crack up. And it's funny, and the whole way that apparently the bust-off happens as well. Again, I think if you guys are not shy and could take some adult humor, and again, drawn very cartoonish, but in a fun way that I think fits the story, then these guys did a bang-up job, and it definitely had me chuckling quite a few times.
Oh, God.
Yeah. No, it's nuts, but it's funny, man. So I give it up to these guys, and if they, you know, they definitely do want to do more stories, and if they do, I'm in. I'm in for the next
That sounds like a hard one to pass up.
Wait till you get to the ending too. Hysterical.
I'm excited for that. Oh, God.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's so funny. I mean, the kid hits all the marks. He definitely does understand a horny teenage male. You know, and then we even get to see a little bit portion of what happens on the female side. And that scene in itself is really funny. So, again, guys, Morgan's Organs, please check it out. I think you guys will have a real good time with it. Daniel Brodie, Robert Jennings, I think, to me, you guys got a winner.
Great job, guys.
You didn't expect that, did you?
And imagine the first issue called Head to Head.
Well, and it was funny because I saw the title of this and I'm like, huh? You know, so I was already curious from the get-go about where this book was going. I should have been...
You probably thought it was horror.
Honestly,
right?
yeah, that was my thought. I thought it was going to be a zombie-type book, and there you go, throwing a curveball, and catching me off guard. Great job, Al. Great job.
Oh man, I'm banging heads. I can't better that one, but
This has been a production of Undercover Capes. Make sure to check us out on undercovercapes.com as well as on Facebook and Twitter.